thousands of protesters angry with Trump's immigration orders marched to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office in Lower Manhattan. Now, about 900 U.S. State Department officials signed an internal dissent memo protesting a travel ban by U.S. President Donald Trump on refugees and travelers from 7 Muslim-majority countries. And this is the basis of our conversation in studio this morning. We're speaking to George Muse, who is a practice leader at Fragomen Worldwide, a company that deals with immigration. George, many thanks for joining us here in studio.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Right, and so since Trump came into office, as it 2 weeks ago, there's been a lot of talk over his policies, especially his immigration policies. But, you know, despite the thousands of protesters we've seen on the street because of this, a new study now shows that 49% of Americans are okay with Trump's immigration policy. I mean, is this just a show of Americans saying something that they're afraid to say, the same as when Trump was being voted in as president?
Thank you, Michelle. And I think I am not surprised at all, because we've given our views initially on this, because one, the fact that he won, despite of all the things that people were not happy with, and all the opinion polls that you guys in the media came up with and other pollsters, it tells you something. So it's not surprising at all that the Americans are supporting in this. And I think also it's important to put this into perspective. I think there is, if you look at the document, which is the executive order on protecting the nation from foreign terrorists entering into the United States, right. I think it is purely a legal document. On the face of it, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think the politics, the spirit of this is what people are unhappy with, because this candidate, you know, the president from when he was a candidate, you know, gunning for the presidential position in the U.S., was very categorical on the things he wanted to do. Some of them were not very politically correct, so to speak, but apparently he won. So I think people are protesting the spirit of all these things. But looking at the document, because I believe a lot of people have not even read the document, they are looking at what analysts are saying, what the media is saying, and he doesn't like the media so much, to base the argument. But if you read, because if you read this document, which has about 11 sections, he said the purpose for this and the policy, which is very clear that it is the policy of the United States government to protect the homeland from people, whether foreign or local, that want to injure the safety of their people and their interest. So that is what I would say for us. That.
Right, so the document is okay with regard to human rights and upholding the dignity of humans.
I think if you read the document, because I am sure a lot of guys have not read, what it says, they say that there are certain sections of countries in this world that are clearly within the immigration law, you know, the schedules that set countries that are profiled based on some considerations. The document to that effect is fine. And the document is done by lawyers. If you look at it keenly, I could see input from the various state agencies concerned with immigration, border safety, and so forth. And it addresses a lot of things. One of them is about the vetting, because the argument is, for you to come to the United States, they must be sure that you are the correct person, that you are where you come from. Actually, the issue is, and I watched, I think 2 days ago, the Secretary for Homeland Security saying their main concern is not with any sector of religion or so forth. It is countries that, in their own view, do not have the capacity to vet their nationals. And the point, if you look at the document, is the president has stopped this for some time and given instructions to the secretaries of Homeland Security, Secretary of State, and the intelligence community to look at these countries in terms of, for instance, in Kenya today, if you want to travel and they ask for a police clearance, they can be sure that that is the correct information, because the Kenya police database is very well managed. In those other countries, some of them that you very well know, countries like Iran, that for a long time have been branded state sponsors of terrorism. So the question this government is asking in this document is, how sure are we, when we ask this government that they consider that can support terrorism, the clearance they give that this is a good citizen and is our citizen is what they say. You know, they cannot independently.
Verify.
Yes.
Right.
So what they have said is actually ordered the various technocrats to look at all that and give him a report in terms of what document, what information do you want from these foreign countries in terms of being able to vet their nationals that want to come over to the United States. Those are some of the issues. They also address issues of financing of the state agencies concerned with immigration and border control to empower them with systems that are able to do proper profiling of these immigrants.
Right.
Yes.
But then, George, why would you say that why is there such an uproar over this ban by Trump? Because I understand that former President Barack Obama had a similar ban that was 6 months long, longer than this one that Trump brings out. What were the differences between those two bans, and why is there so much uproar now?
I think, again, like I said when I started, people look at the spirit, the person. You know, sometimes the message, sometimes they do not listen to the message. As long as it is Mr. So-and-so and we know this person has the propensity to do things that are likely to annoy people, even when such a person is actually doing the right thing, they will not give them the benefit of doubt.
Right.
And correctly so. Actually, President Obama did ban these countries and many others for some time in order to be able to put the act in order and vet them properly. And to surprise you, these countries, apart from Sudan, even in Kenya, they cannot just come over. Because I've worked with Kenya immigration, and I know, as a matter of fact, if you come from, say, Yemen, Iran, or Iraq, you can't get into a plane and travel over. The difference, I think, in my view, is the politics around this whole issue of the presidency. But at the face value of this document, I mean, it is highly contested by many people based on their opinions and all that. But I think the main issue is the issue of protecting their homeland. However, again, you can read some things that people are not very comfortable with, especially on issues of religion. Even when people say that the Muslims have been banned, look at the fact. The world has about 50 countries that are majority Muslim. These are only 7 countries, right? So empirically speaking, you cannot then say that Muslims have been banned from going to the United States.
Right.
And even then, if there are timelines in terms of, I need to get a report on this matter within 60 days, within 30 days, so that I'm able to independently and in very good faith make a decision that now is very well thought out. However, he is also realizes that this will bring a lot of uproar, like it's happening, and that's why he has brought in the Secretary of State, who is the Foreign Affairs Minister, so to speak, so that they will engage with these countries. But we are most likely to see very interesting reactions from different sectors.
Right. And let's take a look at the case of South Sudan, for example. I mean, President Obama had, is it Sudan rather? Sudan.
Yes.
Yeah, President Obama had lifted sanctions on this country. And then this is just towards the end of his term. And then President Trump comes and puts it back on this blacklist. I mean, how is that likely to affect the relations between those two countries?
I think, and I was actually thinking about it when I heard I'm coming here. The immediate former president actually had lifted sanctions against the Sudan for a long period because of those concerns. But then again, there's a new president, and his main concern is the issues of protecting his people and so forth. And again, he told us why are we even surprised? Because he has always said he will do this. I think the reason why a lot of us maybe in Kenya are surprised, because we are used to politicians that say, I will do this in 100 days, and they do not do. If I were marking this sheet in terms of the things he said he would do, I would be ticking, because he said it. Regardless of now the merit and how people will think about it. But I think he's true to his word that he would do this. And it's not really a surprise. I think the reason why is raising a lot of uproar is the way they know he has said before, I will ban these people, I will ban those people. Right. But then again, now he's the president. And when I read this document, it is very clear that he did not wake up in the morning and say, I want to have this executive memo for breakfast. This is a document that has input from all the agencies. I could even single out and say, this I think comes from the border agency, this comes from immigration, this comes from the national security. It's a document that maybe has been worked on for a long time. having been in government, I can tell you a lot of people in government, even within Kenya, could identify with this document. If you remember locally when we had security amendment bill, you remember that, the one that people went all the way to court,
Right.
and some sections of this were, and the intention was then, remember again, the president is the only person in the United States at the moment who is empowered to do that. So if anything happens to the Americans, they will say, look, during your time. So the same thing, you remember the president here, when we had issues where refugees, people staying in the refugee camps were accused of planning the Westgate and many others. So then we changed these laws. But then again, there was a huge backlash in terms of the human rights issues. So this is exactly what is happening here. It will make people very uncomfortable. But if you ask people that are concerned with national security, it is almost impossible for them to arrest this kind of crimes, because some of these people, when they come to the US, either as student, visitors, or unemployment, now they have all this freedom to operate. And when they convert into terrorism, there is nothing much you can do, because they are already resident. And then I think one aspect that maybe the president in this document did not think about quickly, but it was quickly corrected by the court, is people that are already resident in the US, people that are on a visa, and people holding dual nationality. But then again, somebody went to court within one of the states in the US, and the judge gave an order that people that would ordinarily travel because they are valid should be considered. And I saw the Secretary of Homeland Security confirming that where there has been a court order that this has to be done, US being a country that has fidelity to the rule of law, they immediately changed that. But there was initial confusion, and that's why it was such a big news, because if you are airborne, and this came out when you are airborne,
then
there
you're
was
out
no
of the
way.
country, that's it.
Yes, and we even saw the case of Mo Farah, who could not at that time go back to the US, but then eventually this was sorted. So the way I see it is the document may be well intended, but the manner and the speed with which it was done may have caused a lot of confusion. But I think things are starting to settle down. Yeah.
And just as we wind up, let's move away from the US and come to Africa now. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Africans die every year while going through Morocco in a bid to access Spain and Italy, and many of them end up dying. What does this say about Africa's efforts to, immigration, especially for the AU?
Thank you, and that's a good question, because I'm very passionate about African immigration practice. I think the main issue, and I have written this, in other forums, a lot of people want to go and live that dream. They are told in Europe, in the US, in this place, in that place. So this is one, there are several factors. One, countries that are not functional, states that are not very functional. I can bet you'll find very few Kenyans dying up there. Countries that are not functional, governance issues in these countries, and there's also issues of human smuggling and trafficking, where people, this is a huge industry now, where people are made, trafficking people their business. So they give them that, you raise some money, you sell your property, pay these folks to take you over, and when you are at the high seas is your business. So that is a concern. However, this is not new if you've been in the field for a while. Even as we speak, South Africa receives a lot of people that are trafficked from a lot of countries within Eastern Africa region, from Ethiopia, from Somalia, because there are jobs there. And you can see that problem is coming back home, because South Africa, there are issues of xenophobia attacks. And I even read yesterday, there is some tension over there in Mustard. So to that extent, I would say Africa, the problem of Africa are the same problems that we know. The problems of governance, very weak economies. Why would you, for instance, you in particular, or myself, why would I want to leave? Because I have a decent job, I can do all those things. But there are people that the only thing they have is that hope to get a job in the US. So they'll do anything that they must do to get over there. All right. Yes.
All right. Many thanks for speaking to us. George Muse is a practice leader at Fragomen Kenya Limited, which is a company that deals with immigration. And that conversation brings us to a break here on Worldview. When we come back, Trix Ngaro will be joining us with World Press. Don't go too far.